No? Tudo certo? Great. If I'm too fast or something you don't understand, just slow me down, please. So I'm Torsten from Germany, and I'm going to talk to you about how you can open up your local public transport with data from OpenStreetMap. So why do that at all, and why did I do this? And the reason is that I'm the author of a public transport application for Android, which is called Transporter. So I wrote this several years ago, and I use it every day, and it works in many places in the world. So even when I travel, I can use it, and I can use public transport. So I can get from A to B very easily. That's nice. Just to give you like some screenshots to see how it looks like the most important feature is the direcções, where it tells you like como chegar, how to arrive from here to another place. So it calculates the routing for you. And this is how the search looks. You have like the most frequently used trips you have. You can just tap it, you open the app, you see this screen, and you just tap your favorite trip, and it tells you when the next bus leaves, where it leaves, and when you will arrive, and where you need to change, maybe. Yeah, this looks like this. Which bus, the number of the bus, where you need to switch, when is the next connection coming. So I had this nice application. It's software livre, free software. And then I went to Florianópolis. And there, the transport is very crazy for me as a European. Like, I needed a lot of time getting used to it and how it works. Like, they have these bus terminals, which are the easiest thing about the public transport, because there you have like a schedule and you see when is the bus coming, if they don't show advertisements all the time instead. But many bus stops also look like this. Like, you have no idea when is the next bus coming, what buses actually pass here, where do they go, and very often even the bus driver doesn't know it. Like, you need to stop every bus and ask, do you go there? No. Do you go there? And sometimes the passengers know better where the bus goes than the driver itself. So for me, it was difficult to get around. So I wanted to make this application work. And in order to do this, let's look at where the application works already. So this is all the points. It's a little outdated. In Brazil, there's now more cities. Here in Sao Paulo, it works. So if you want to take the metro, don't know where to change what to do, it helps you even with buses. But also in Belo Horizonte, Rio de Janeiro, Porto Alegre, and now also Florianópolis. But most of the other things, they work because they access the APIs of the public transport companies directly. So there's no OpenStreetMap involved, nothing. It's the easiest way. They have an API, just use it. But for more and more things, there is now a standard developing for public transport data. And it is the General Transit Feed Specification. It is like developed in cooperation from like a public transport agency in Portland and with Google. Like, it used to be the Google Transport Speed Specification, but now it's general. And everybody uses it nowadays, so it's really the de facto standard. And if you want to do something with public transport data, that is what you want to work with. And many public transport agencies, like here in Sao Paulo and Rio, they publish this data already. So it could also be helpful for mapping bus stops, because in this data, there is a list of all the stops with the GPS coordinates that the public transport agency took. But in Florianópolis, they didn't want to release it. And I was even asking them, and that was their response. And I said, it would be an investment, and we would need to pay Google for this. And they didn't really understand like what's going on and how it works. So I tried to explain them, I sent them more emails, but in the end, they just didn't answer anymore. And they were clearly not interested in it. So I figured, okay, maybe I can do this myself. So I was looking exactly on how this GTFS works and what is needed. And it's quite simple. It's just text files, essentially. It's a list of text files you need to provide. And these are the ones that are required for GTFS to work. So agency is very simple. You just say like what transport agency it is, and what is their homepage, and stuff like this. And then you have the list of stops I talked about already. And you have the routes, the líneas, the omnibus takes. And this information can sometimes be partly available on OpenStreetMap, but here the transport agency has a homepage where they list all the líneas. So I had already source of information where to get this information from. So that was good. Then the trips. Like the trips is on one line, on one route, the bus makes several trips a day. No? One at 6, one at 7, one at 8. And also this information is available on the homepage. And many people in Florianópolis wrote website scrapers to scrape this information and to make some custom apps to somehow make this information better available to people, so using public transport is easier. But I didn't want to do this. So now let's go to the stops. Where are the bus stops? You need to know where the bus stops if you want to make any meaningful computations routing with bus stops. So back to this page. That's everything they had. They tell me like in which street the bus passes, but not where they stop. But what I actually need is I need a name and I need the latitude and longitude of the stop. So I need the exact position. I need to find out where it is. So the only other thing they have on their publicly available information is this. And this is, I think, even illegal because it's like Google Maps without any indication that it is Google Maps. And I don't know how it works, but they might be drawing this by hand over the map, and maintaining this is very slow, and they just deliver these huge graphics. That's all they do. And even in this graphics, they don't have any indication where the bus actually stops. But it's a help if you want to know at least where the bus goes. But even this is sometimes wrong. But okay, so this didn't help. And then I looked, since I was an OpenStreetMap contributor for many years, I thought, okay, let's look how is the data situation in OpenStreetMap. And it was surprisingly good. So this is a screenshot from JOSM, and like I looked at, okay, where's the public transport objects? Are there bus routes mapped? You see there is a public transport relations on the right side. So somebody already did, this is a platform, this is a route omnibus 944 going there. So those already in the data. And I contacted the local community, the people like that did this. And it turned out like most of the work were actually done by another German guy, like Martin. Like, thanks a lot for all this mapping. So he's a professor in the UFSC in Florianópolis, and when he arrived there, OpenStreetMap guy, like from Germany, and he took all the buses. He took the buses and mapped like all the routes. Like not all of them, because there's lots, but the most prominent ones. So thank you. So then I thought, okay, how do I get this data out? Like if I want to make this GTFS stuff work, I need to extract the things from OpenStreetMap somehow. And then I don't know if you guys know that, but there's this awesome tool called Overpass. Like, who knows Overpass? Yeah, it's like a third of the people here. So with Overpass, you have like a query language, and you can query OpenStreetMap for information you need. And this is, I found it quite complicated to learn, and I preferred the XML version there, but other people prefer like another query language. But so this gives me all the public transport objects in a bounding box that I defined. And so I could use this to pull the data out. And then I wrote a script. Like I wrote a Python script, which I call like OSM to GTFS, which is available there at my GitHub. And how the script works essentially is that you feed it the schedule, it fetches the data from OpenStreetMap that it needs, and then it combines both to produce the GTFS. So then you have this file that you can work with. And initially, that was very, very quick and dirty. Like, I wanted to make this just work. Like, I didn't want to make it nice or reusable, so it just should work for me. But then I figured, yeah, maybe also other people might want to use this. And I presented this at another conference here in Brazil, and there was a guy from Costa Rica who wanted to do exactly the same thing. And he got me in touch with Felix from Mapanica, that maybe some of you know. Who knows Felix? It's like 3 people. Yeah, Felix says hi to you. So he did in Mapanica already lots of public transport mapping, and Jamie from Costa Rica as well. So they started contributing to the script and made it more general, so other people could use it more easily. So we already have a GTFS for the trains in Costa Rica now, generated with this script. And Felix is working on the Nicaragua public transport as well, for the capital Managua. And nowadays, like, Felix is almost doing most of the work, and he came up with this. This is like the structure of the script in a way. So there's, on the left side is all the OpenStreetMap related stuff. It's like the fetching the data from OpenStreetMap. In the middle is the schedules stuff, and in the right side is the GTFS creation. So it's all encapsulated and nicely modular now. And essentially, if you live in a country and you don't have any good public transport apps or any good things for this, you can use the script to create your own GTFS file. And this looks like, essentially it's that, right? You start the script, you give and then you give your own configuration, which is a JSON file. Does somebody not know what is JSON? Everybody knows that, one person. Okay, it's just a simple, I show you example. So this is the configuration. It's just the way how to write that. So you have a query, and you say the bounding box, you say the coordinates of your box in the map, so where the script should fetch the public transport information from, and then you can specify tags, like if it's not, adheres not to the public transport version 2, really, so you can say, I want all the routes that are tagged with route bus. So in Florianopolis, there's just buses, there's no trains, so that's what I use. So this is actually the example that I actually use for Florianopolis. And then the script also does something, because in Florianopolis, not all bus stops have names. And they will probably never have names, because there's just no names for them. So what I did is, what the script does, it queries OpenStreetMap and looks in a 50-meter radius around the bus stop if there's anything that has a name which could be the name for the bus stop. And if there's a church, then the bus stop will be named after the church. And if there's really nothing in the OpenStreetMap, so then you can say Ponto Sem Nome. So there's many Ponto Sem Nomes now in the data, but, well, better than nothing. And then this is, you just specify the agency, like from what is this for? And then the feed information is just who did this, and maybe a website, whatever, version. And then you say, what is the output file? Everything will be in one zip file in the end. You just say, okay, this is the name. And selector Phoenix, this is where there's some Python code, because you need some custom code to read your own schedule in somehow. Like the guys want to do some other import. So you don't even need to do any Python to do that. But at the moment, you would need to program a little bit of Python. So how much time we have? 15 minutes. Okay, so I show you something else I did with the script. Because there is an optional text file in the GTFS specification. It's shapes. So this means which trajectory on the map does the bus take? Like, what is the shape of the route, basically, on the map when you want to draw it? And it's just a list of points. It's nothing more. It's a list of GPS coordinates. It's like when you make a GPS track, it's essentially the same thing when you ride the bus and you record. And they use this to paint the map nicely, the bus route nicely on the map. And while doing this with my script, automatically, I found lots of things like this. You see in the middle, like, the bus route doesn't really go inside the terminal, and it's not connected to the other side. So I found lots of errors like this, and I let my script run, found the error, fixed it, and ran it again. And then it worked until I found the next error. And I did this for a couple of hours until I fixed all the errors and had all the points that define the bus route. And in my application transporter, if you make a search and you click the map button, this is how it looks like. So you start there on the right side, and then you have like the little H's. This is all, every little H is a bus stop. And then you change there in the middle to another bus, and it takes you there to the center of Florianopolis. And when you zoom in, because the map there is OpenStreetMap, and my information comes from OpenStreetMap, it matches very nicely, and you can even see the bus doing things like this. So, but in order to have this GTFS file really do something meaningful, because it's just a text file, it doesn't do anything on its own, you need to have some sort of program that works with this GTFS file. And there's like OpenTrip for example, that consumes GTFS and does some nice applications with it. I personally used Navicia, which is also software libre, produced in France. And it's essentially a web service as well. And you just give it the GTFS, and it provides a nice API for you to consume. And Transporter already supports the API from Navicia. So as soon as you fire up a server with Navicia, Transporter can directly connect to it, and you have it working out of the box just like this. So the diagram I showed you earlier now looks like this. Like you have the OSM to GTFS creating the GTFS file. Then you put this into Navicia, and Transporter connects to Navicia, and the user in the end uses Transporter to do it. But you wouldn't need to do this. Like GTFS, since it's a standard, you can use any other tools that can work with it to do whatever you want, like other applications as well. So just for the people who want to check this out, Transporter is available there in the top. And the OSM to GTFS is available there in the GitHub repository. So, muito obrigado. And I guess we still have some time for questions.
Anyone has a question?
I'm going to ask you in English since we're already...
English is fine, yeah.
In the case of Florianopolis, you had someone mapped, that already mapped in OSM some of the stuff in public transport. What is your take on if I have, say, a city that has no information on OSM, but maybe has some of the information needed for the GTFS, for example? Like I know cities who have published bus stop locations and that have better looking maps than that one for their routes. And what kind of stuff is absolutely necessary to have field work done, in your opinion?
Well, you need the schedule information. You need to know the bus of that line leaves at this times at that stop. No? You need to know this. And you need to know where are the stops. And that's essentially it already. So there is some public transport agencies that also publish the location of their stops and also the exact times when the bus passes at those stops. So for those, you could write a script, or you could rewrite my script to generate the GTFS directly from this information, and you would not even need OpenStreetMap. But if you just have a list of GPS coordinates of the bus stops, you would still need to associate the bus stops with the bus routes. And why not use OpenStreetMap for that? Like we want this information in OpenStreetMap anyway, so please use it.
And then you can go back to OpenStreetMap and put that back.
Yeah, use OpenStreetMap as your database, as a public database that everybody else can benefit from as well.
Can you use any kind or type of transport or public transport, like trains, subways?
Yes.
Ferries.
The public transport tagging system is defined in the OpenStreetMap wiki. They are at version 2 now. And you just essentially say route in my case, it's route bus, but you can also use other tags to identify your bus lines or your lines. You could just say it has to be tagged with public transport version this and a tag route, for example. And then it will just take everything, all the metros, all the buses, the trams, whatever you have, ferries. You can do everything with that.
I have two questions. The first one is, you said that there is no GTFS for Florianopolis. So you don't have the timetable, the trips, when the trips start in the city. How do you handle that in Transporter? And
well, in Florianopolis you don't have GTFS. So, but you have at least the information when does the bus start in the bus terminal. No, in Florianopolis it works always with terminals, and they just say when it starts in the terminal, and they say approximately how much time does the bus need to go around. So what I do there is I approximate the times. Like if I know the bus takes 1 hour to go around, and then I just have the distances between the stops, and then I just, if this is like 1/3 of the distance, so that will probably take 1/3 of the time. And mais ou menos that works surprisingly well.
okay, and Navitia is a API or what is it?
It's a web service that provides an API and lets you interface with the GTFS directly, because the GTFS is static information. But if you say, I'm here now, and I want to go to, I don't know, where can I go here in Sao Paulo? To Guarulhos Airport. How do I get to the airport? Then you need to make a routing calculation. And Navitia does this. So my Transporter app just needs to say, I have a user who wants to go from here to Guarulhos. How does he arrive there? And then Navitia gives me the information based on my GTFS data. You need to take this metro to there, then you need to change in the yellow line to go there, and then you take this bus to arrive in Guarulhos at this and this time.
I just wanted to share a bad news. Buenos Aires City always refuses to give us, as a community of OpenStreetMap in Buenos Aires, they refuse to give us the information of transportation, but they gave it to Google Maps. So now you can use Google Maps for move for the city of Buenos Aires, but not yet OpenStreetMap.
Yeah,
It's
that is very
sad news.
Because that means they have GTFS data available internally that they pass on to Google, but they don't publish this. And this is very bad, because why? Like, why exclusively for Google? Like, I would try to get like community pressure on them to release this stuff. Because in this case, if the data exists, there's no point in creating it yourself again. Like, you need to get it out. I don't know, freedom of information requests or something like this. Depends on the country. Depends on the country. I think in Brazil you also have freedom of information. Yeah, in Brazil it wouldn't be possible to do it, but maybe in Argentina. But maybe talk to some open data lawyers. Get the data.
So Transporter doesn't work offline, is that right?
Transporter doesn't work offline because it requires the Navitia API to make the route calculation.
Okay.
But it is theoretically possible to work offline. You would just need to do the routing on your phone. And there is some free software that does this. It's just tricky to implement this all together offline. You need to fetch the GTFS on the phone and need to do a database on the phone, and then you need to have a routing calculator, a routing engine that does the calculations on your phone. It's possible, especially with the modern smartphones, but somebody would have to do it, and I cannot do everything. So.
Yeah, sure. Do you have any tips on how we can push more information to OpenStreetMap? Do you think it would be okay if we grabbed all their information on websites doing scraps and then trying to maybe find out which stop would that be, or at least try to publish the routing and stuff like that?
Well, like you're all OpenStreetMappers, so I encourage you to map public transport. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I think we need better editors for public transport related data. It's too complicated. It's really difficult. Another thing is what I did in Florianopolis, I didn't mention in the presentation, is I was at the Prefeitura talked to them, really nice guy. I gave him a USB flash drive. He gave me the flash drive back with lots of spreadsheets of different bus stop locations. So now I have a huge spreadsheet with all the official bus stops. And I have the permission from this guy to get this into OpenStreetMap. But since some stops are already in and some information is also wrong in the Prefettura, we need to do this manually at the moment. So we have some people in Florianopolis working on importing manually all the bus stops there.
Okay, but you think it would be nice or fine if we did these automatically or try to scrap data from websites and try to publish that?
If you have the permission to do this, if it's legal, because that is always the case with OpenStreetMap, you cannot push copyrighted material just like this into OpenStreetMap. So if it's legal, by all means, just get as much public transport data into OpenStreetMap as possible. Sure, please.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other question? Okay, so
one last question. What's your user base for Transporter?
Well, it's a little hard to tell because Transporter is software libre, so free software. That means I'm not tracking the users and I don't charge them per copy, so I don't know how many people actually download it. And the main distribution channel for Transporter is the F-Droid store, which is a free software store which only has free software. And there's many global community using that, and they don't track downloads, so I don't know. But there is Google Play that also has Transporter, and Google Play, it's not that popular. It has a couple of thousand users.
Okay.
So if you like Transporter, please make advertisements for it, right? I like more people using it.
But you run the Navicia instance?
I don't have a license for it because it's free software. I run an instance myself. They have a public one that they offer for the community. But like if I want to update the data quickly, or like if there's like a holiday and I need to make a special exception in the schedule and things like this, I prefer to have direct access myself and not rely on them to do it. Because they are busy, they have customers, and they don't always do what I want, right? Because I'm not their customer. So I use the software on my own server and provide it for all people in Florianopolis.
Thank you.
Perfeito. Então,
One more question, have you time for that?
yeah.
To web consultants or only to mobile app?
The API is, you can consume the API with whatever you like. And you can also use the GTFS directly and populate a PostGIS database with it and do your own calculations on it. So it's just because my use case is Android apps. But if you want to have a website, you can use it as well. But I think OpenTripPlanner has this already integrated. So OpenTripPlanner comes with the website of the map and the website interface. You can say, I want to go from here to there, what is my trajectory? OpenTripPlanner is also open, but for me it was a little more complicated. Like more difficult to use, a big Java application you need to put on your server. And
Perfeito. Então, Torsten, muito obrigado. Salva de palmas para Torsten. E parabéns pelo trabalho.